What's up, heroes, and welcome to Gamers Heroes' epic top 5 weapons lists for the massive Final Fantasy franchise. You're probably going to end up laughing at some of my pronunciations during this video, but you know, I suppose it's half the fun. Final Fantasy was originally intended to be the final efforts of Hironobu Sakaguchi, as he was originally just going to leave the gaming industry if the game flopped. Thankfully for us, it didn't flop. The Final Fantasy series has spawned over 30 games, anime series, movies, the lot. It has entertained fans the world over for 26 years, my entire lifespan, and has created some of the most beloved characters, some of the best storylines, and some of the best combat scenes in gaming history, especially in RPG history. We'll go that far. So without further ado, I will walk you through Gamers Heroes' top 5 Final Fantasy weapons. At number 5, we have the Brotherhood Sword. The Brotherhood Sword is the iconic sword from Final Fantasy VII and is Tidus' weapon of choice at the start of the game. It makes several other appearances throughout the franchise, most notably in Final Fantasy XII as Gilgamesh's fake sword. We all hate Gilgamesh, so I'll leave it at that. In Final Fantasy X, the Brotherhood Sword was actually a gift from Wakka following his brother Chapu's fight in the battle against Sin with the Crusaders 1 year before the events portrayed in Final Fantasy X. So it's not as soaked in history as some of the Final Fantasy weapons are, but it looks awesome. Tidus is great, FF10 was awesome, so it deserves a mention as our 5th top 5 Final Fantasy best weapons. In at number 4, and I'm sure some of you will hate me for this, it's the Masamune. These bloody Japanese, Korean, Chinese words, whatever they are, I can't read them. It's arguably one of the most famous swords throughout the entire Final Fantasy franchise and one of the most famous weapons in gaming itself. It has made an appearance in some shape or form in over 30 different Final Fantasy titles, and even got paid homage in Kingdom Hearts and yes, that's another one. Its original appearance was in the first Final Fantasy title, which was description read a legendary katana without peer. Since then it continues to appear in game after game, usually as a powerful sword or katana. Of course, we can't forget it was also Sephiroth's weapon of choice. You know, as an antagonist, that guy kicked some serious ass. More recently, the Masamune made an appearance of sorts in Final Fantasy XIV after the merging of 2 servers, which the community dubbed the Masamune server. So it's there, and I'm sure it will be featured heavily in the upcoming MMO, so make sure you check back for that soon. But that's the number 4 in our top 5 Final Fantasy weapons, the Masamune. I got the pronunciation wrong before, and I'll get it wrong again. Our 3rd weapon in our top 5 Final Fantasy weapons list is Zergiers. Arguably, it's not the most common pick among Final Fantasy fans, but Azazel is one of the most beloved characters in the whole franchise. I love everything. He kicks ass, he's got an attitude, he punches before he thinks. I love it. I feel it deserves a spot in our top 5 Final Fantasy weapons. If you're anything like me, you probably spent hours running around the island closest to Hell, searching for those bloody dragon skins, only to find the Anaconda drops them freely. So yeah, that sucked, but regardless, it was all worth it once you power up the weapon and launch my final heaven. I don't care what you're fighting, that's a good game. Clinching the number 2 spot in our top 5 Final Fantasy weapons is the Buster Sword. If you thought, even for a second, that the Buster Sword would not make an appearance, you crazy son. It's viewed as Cloud Strife's iconic weapon throughout the Final Fantasy VII experience, arguably one of the most loved games in the entire franchise. Since then, it's made an appearance in tons of Final Fantasy games, obviously the film as well, and it also got some homage from appearances in other titles such as Monster Hunter and Fallen Sword. There's a lot of deep history surrounding the Buster Sword, Cloud and Zack Fair, but I won't bore you with that. We all know the weapon, we all love the character, it just belongs. It's Cloud, it's the Buster Sword, number 2. Narrowly taking the number 1 spot, you know what it is, if it's not the Buster Sword, it's got to be the Gunblade. It was a real toss-up, but it got the number 1 spot in our top 5 Final Fantasy weapons. It was originally introduced in the Final Fantasy VIII game, as the Gunblade was the first Final Fantasy weapon to offer real-time interaction, rewarding players for the correct timing of a button push to deal additional damage. Following Final Fantasy VII, the Gunblade took a more direct route, becoming an actual weapon type in a lot of the Final Fantasy games, and also having an influence on a lot of the spin-offs. It's not the best sword in terms of the lore and the background surrounding it, but it's one of the most fun to play with. It looked great, Squall was a great character, and 8 was a great game. So there you go, that wraps it up. I'm sure some of you guys disagree with some of the choices. I'm hoping you disagree with some of the choices. Write in the comment section below what you think should have been included in the top 5 and why. If you agree with these choices, that's great. Let me know why. If you think it's the same weapons but mix them up a little bit in the 5 orders, you know, let me know. Throw us a like, a comment and a subscribe. We'll be doing tons more of these top 10 videos and top 5 videos in the near future. If it's a specific topic you want to see, I don't know, top 5 Final Fantasy characters, top 5 something else from another game, let me know in the comment section below and I'll be sure to pop one up. I will catch you guys next time. Peace out, heroes.